Welcome everybody to our April board meeting. During our meeting, we will have, I will request public comment, and members of the public shall indicate their desire to speak. All public comments shall be addressed to the board of directors and limited to 3 minutes per speaker. And the board of directors may choose to respond to the comments or request staff to respond at the conclusion of the public comment period. All right, so I'll call to order, and we are all here. Is there any questions about the agenda? Hold on, Stephen, is any board members have any comments about the agenda or questions? Can we adopt it? Do you guys think? Okay. All right, go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I actually want to comment on
Okay.
your opening statement that members of the public, I don't know why we do this dance each time, because I'm usually the member of the public and you want to limit my speech. You also want to comment on what I say, and I would certainly appreciate it, as I'm sure any member of the public would who bothers to come to these meetings, that there be a dialogue, not just a slap down of whatever I say. So when I'm asking the board to reconsider the policy of public engagement, to be more civil and more dialogue focused. If that's too much, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be serving, but that's what public service is. It's a communication with the public and it's representation of the public. So that's all I had to say on that, so I'll let you continue.
All right, thank you. I'm actually going to comment on this. Thank you, Stephen, for your comment, and we do love all the comments, and we do appreciate you coming to all the meetings. And we do the song and dance because we are supposed to do the song and dance. It's part of, hold on, it is part of our bylaws, it is part of what we are supposed to do, and when we go to our trainings, when we become board members, part of the California training for CSDs, we do need to ask for public comment, and we do appreciate the public comment we are getting. Now,
and most of them don't limit to 3
I
minutes,
did not
okay?
interrupt you.
If there's one person and he
Stephen,
has something,
I am giving you one warning, and then
you're
you
not
are
my
going
mommy,
to let me finish
okay?
what I'm saying.
You're not my
I'd like to
mommy,
finish.
you're the
Second warning.
representative of the community.
Second warning, Stephen. Do not.
Give me a third warning and then tell me what happens.
Do not interrupt me. I did not interrupt you.
Okay, fair enough.
You are asking me to be civil. I am being very civil. I am not interrupting you.
You're
I am
trying
explaining
to
to you
control the
since you keep
conversation.
saying what you keep asking me why we don't do dialogue. The reason we don't do dialogue is because this is not how we are being trained as CSD board members to do this as board members. We would love to have dialogue with you, but this is not the forum in order to have dialogue. This is a forum where we get presented information and we digest it. Thank you. We are going to now move on. All right. We are moving on to the consent calendar. Does anybody of the board have any questions about the consent calendar with the draft minutes and the regular meeting minutes from March 14th, 2023, or the bills paid?
Motion to approve.
Oh, sorry, thank you. You got that, Tiffany?
Did you second?
She seconded it.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to the consent calendar. Thank you, Bill, so much. Any questions about the draft minutes or the bills paid? Tiffany, again, thank you for the draft minutes, and Eric for putting together the bill paid. I just see that.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to point out, I don't have any questions because of the level of detail in it. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Are you good? Good. All right. Do the members of the public have any questions about the consent calendar that they'd like to pose?
No.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to item D, public comment.
Nope,
We'll get it.
nope, you need
Sorry.
a,
Motion to approve.
you have a motion, you have a second, you need a vote.
Sorry. All in favor? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, public comment, open time for items not on the agenda. Speakers may comment only on non-agenda items within the subject matter of the jurisdiction of the district. The board may not take action on, consider, or debate items not on the agenda except under narrow circumstances, meeting statutory tests. Response to comments on non-agenda items will be limited to factual information or clarification questions from staff or board members at the conclusion of the public comment period. The president may refer to the matter or to staff or to future meeting agendas. Yes, Stephen?
May I speak?
I said yes.
Okay. First of all, I'm sorry to get you upset, and I do apologize for that. I'm very upset. I'm upset at the whole charade. You know, we have a very short time on this planet, and you have a very short time representing the community. And I've been asking, actually, pretty consistently for the last several years, what are your dreams? What do you hope to achieve? What are you putting into place? And what I see is really just kind of a song and dance, and I see rubber stamping of basically whatever the CSD is doing. Now, that doesn't mean if they make a presentation, I'm not saying that they're necessarily doing things wrong, but they do need to be held to account to whatever it is that they're doing. And we've seen a lot of pretty egregious abuses of the public trust and our finances. The latest example, of course, is the extension of property onto Marinwood, with that wall that was privately paid to, I guess, the CSD staff members to work on overnight. The public's denied that land. It's wrong. It needs to come down. You guys need to call that out. You also need to call out other egregious illegal actions, such as the storage of those shipping containers on park land. You're taking that away from the public. And why is that? Because no one's holding a standard of care for our parks. You guys need to ask questions. You wonder why I'm here. You may think I just like to bitch, you know. But the reason I'm here is because as long as I've lived here, I've never seen a rigorous examination of the goals of this district and how things are achieved. Now, we do have good staff. They do good things. They should be commended when they do things well. But when they do things poorly, you also need to recognize that and make corrections. Now, you guys are going to vote for more taxes. You're going to vote for an increased budget, and it's going to be blind. And I know I'm going to leave, and you're going to be thrilled. Bill will probably make his typical comment, glad he's not there, and you'll go home early. Congratulations. What have you accomplished? What have you accomplished for yourself? What have you accomplished for Marinwood? The future is yours. I ask you to use this time well, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you for reviewing your comment.
May I reply really quick, Stephen? I have
Sure.
something to say. I want you to know that I take my board position very serious. I want you to know that I have conversations with Luke, with other board members, not on general topic, with Eric, with anybody when I have questions. I want you to know that I do my research before I do my votes. So, hold on. Please don't harp on me if I disagree with you. Hold on, let me
I like
finish.
each one of you. I
I know,
really,
but let me
on a
finish.
personal
Let me
level,
finish.
I don't have any problems
I know.
with any of you,
I
okay?
feel, I'm just talking about me.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when you come in here and you talk about the horseshoe pit and you talk about other things again and again, that
Right, they're
you don't
drinking
think.
hard liquor out there,
I
okay?
get it. You feel a certain way.
Ask
I feel
Bill Shea
differently.
about it.
We've talked about it. I want you to know from me, I have these conversations with Eric and I have these conversations with Luke, and I hear when you come in here that you think that those shouldn't sit there. They have reported that they're trying to sell them. So there's action. It just doesn't happen overnight. All I'm saying is, and I've said this before when we've had her, give us time, give me time.
Okay.
I hear you.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's all
Appreciate
I'm gonna
that.
say.
I do.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other comments? Apparently there's no other public here tonight. We are going to move on to district matters. We are looking at E1, the second draft of the district operations budget of financial year 2023-2024.
Good. Well, I can move through this, I think, probably relatively quickly on my end, and then answer whatever questions or clarifications the board might have. I will say, obviously, as you've probably noticed, this has gone through a significant round of updates and adjustments since the initial first draft, to the point where the only thing really kind of outstanding at this moment are potential salary adjustments for non-represented staff. That would be Park, Rec, and then Tiffany's position in the admin. Some select utilities I still need to spend some time on, gas and electric, water, sewer. Some select fire department supplies and equipment, although I don't expect significant changes. I have sat and met with all of the captains on this, and they are just researching some current costings on some items that are kind of perennial needs for replacement. So they're making sure we have updated costs on that. And then the final property tax adjustments, which I'll look at once we get our April allocations, which usually represents about 40% or so. Otherwise, it is certainly far enough along to give us a reasonable expectation for final projections. As you see, there's still a projected net gain of well over 400,000 currently in the budget. And then if I am looking at the notes page, I'm certainly not going to read through all of these, but I just want to highlight a couple of them. Again, on the property tax, current secured, affects all departments. This will be adjusted a little bit further with April. Right now it's incredibly conservative, and it's actually right about what I'm expecting to receive in total this year. So I'll probably receive around a 1, maybe a 2% adjustment upward. I did make a couple changes, taking advantage of the budgeting opportunity, just to try to make things a little bit more clear. Our marketing line, I've added the term "and recruiting" to the account title, just because we've never really had a spot for putting recruiting stuff. We've certainly had a lot of recruiting expenses in the last few years. Insurance, as a general, I don't have final predictions on that yet, but in speaking and communications from our insurance company, they're saying to expect a 15 to 20% increase on our property liability insurances. That's not specific to our agency, that is across the board, but they did say they expect work comp, at least as far as the base rates go, to remain relatively stable. So that is some level of good news. So for our property liability insurance, I basically plugged it in at a 20% increase just to be conservative, and if it comes in less, hooray, but at least I don't think it should come in more. But we're not going to have those till probably after you guys approve the final budget. On the park side, I did consolidate one of the GL accounts that we use. That was for maintenance for park heavy equipment. It didn't really make sense to have this as a standalone. It's a small budget, so I merged what was budgeted into that into just the general equipment maintenance and replacement line. So it kind of removes a line from the chart of accounts that is used solely by one department and has a very small budget to it, so hopefully it makes the entire chart of accounts a little bit easier to understand. And then I just wanted to highlight what we have planned for capital outlay on the park side. Obviously the big project is the play structure replacement project. Total budget on that is about $222,000. 80% of that is grant funded. We do have some carryover in there that was on this year's budget but never got expended. One is a tree limb and debris chipper. We're actually still looking at the feasibility of that. And then a utility vehicle replacement. That's around $16,000 on that we're just kind of waiting for that John Deere to die, because it's been dying for the last 5 or 6 years, but it just won't finish running. But it needs to be replaced, so we're looking at a replacement for that. On the rec side, some of the capital outlay, again, some are carryovers. We know we have a very old aging furnace that at some point is going to stop working and is going to need to be replaced, so we budgeted $7,500 for that. Same thing with the ADA pool chair. It's one of those things where it keeps working, but once it stops working, we need to replace it immediately to remain in compliance. So that has been budgeted for. It just keeps getting carried over. Luke brought to the attention that we have a pool heater that might be kind of reaching the end of its lifespan, so we have budgeted for that. As well as we need some replacement chlorine generator cells, so we budgeted for that. And then just looking around, especially after this winter and the harsh conditions, we really need to kind of hit up all the exterior wood with some treatment and stain on the community center itself. So we budgeted for that item as well. And then on the fire side, obviously the big project, and this still is really just kind of a placeholder. I need to bring in some people to give me better estimates, but we pegged it at 60,000, is to install partition walls in the single bunk room, so that way we can have some separate sleeping quarters, a little better privacy and living conditions for them. And we also need to replace a water pump that is starting to fail on the Wildland engine. So we have budgeted for that appropriately as well. And this isn't a water pump like is in your car. This is the water pump that you hook up and it actually pumps out gallons of water to
Put a fire out.
put a fire out with. Correct.
A little bit bigger.
Some sort of important.
Yeah, no, that's it. Fire picture doesn't want this. Otherwise, it's just a really expensive truck. And then on the street lights, the one thing, and this is like the accounts that never change, but we're actually back in 2013 when the district updated all of the street lights to on-bill to LED. We took out a large on-bill financing loan through PG&E. We're actually going to be paying that off in the first half of the year, so that'll change our monthly PG&E bills because it's $600 a month that gets applied to that. So all I did on that, since that money is dedicated anyway, was shift around what I expect for electricity and put them in street light maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, as in PG&E bills going up anyways, so.
Yeah, and then we have a couple other items, and Luke and I will talk a little bit more about those, but as part of Measure A, and I put that in my district manager report.
Okay, thank you.
This is all operating budget stuff here.
Do you, just a question on the utility vehicle, is that current for this year's amount, or do you adjust it when you carry it over?
We adjusted it a little bit. We looked at what some of the current pricing is and actually added, I think, probably a couple grand to the cost of it.
Okay.
Mhm. Good
And
question.
the John Deere too, because those.
That's what
those
it
went up.
is.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Any other?
And for all of those, Kathleen, to answer, I mean, like when we carried over, we've been waiting for this heater to die because we had to replace one 2 years ago and they were both put in at the same time. So I've upped the cost on that a little bit too because things are more expensive than they were 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Basically.
And are we, there's with the pool stuff, specifically with the chair, are we pretty sure now that there's not gonna be any time delays in ordering those with various supply and demand
No, I don't know what
issues?
the lead time is. I mean, I know there's a bunch of different options and brands and a lot of
Okay.
carriers, and they even sell some of them local. I mean, like,
Okay.
I don't foresee that being a big supply chain
Okay,
issue where we're out of compliance for some long period of time.
Okay. Besides being out of compliance, I want people to be able to use the pool, so.
Is there a reason why
Absolutely.
if we have the funds right now, we don't just replace it? 'Cause it's-
We could definitely buy one and have it on hand for when the time comes, just something to look at, yeah.
Do we do that
but it's-
install or does somebody else do the install?
It depends on the model, if it requires any changes to the the infrastructure in terms of the water coming out of the deck, and if it's like the exact same hookups or whether they have to do something different. So something we've definitely looked at some of the different options, and like I said, there's a lot of different ones, and they're pretty straightforward. So I'm not worried about this being some big install that would be a tricky thing to deal with. It'd be more just when the time comes, just making a purchase, and it should be pretty straightforward. But
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, so Eric, when are we looking at, are we still on track?
Oh, yeah, no, so at the next meeting, at the May meeting, you'll be given a final budget, final recommended budget, with ask to adopt, with the request to adopt, recommendation to adopt. So I don't expect, it's not gonna have major changes over what you're looking at now. Again, a little bit of revenue change, in the positive, and we might wind up adding, some small level expenditure when we look at water, sewer, gas, electric. Gas, electric's a little bit tricky on the park side because we have a new facility without any historical usage.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be definitely on the estimate side of things because we've literally only got a few months worth of usage on it. So we'll just kind of ballpark that the best I can and give ourselves a little bit of a buffer room in there. And then, again, on the fire side, just, looking at making sure that we're up to cost on turnout replacements, the hose replacement that we typically try to upgrade on an annual basis. So the captains are working on that, and they'll give you those numbers, but I don't expect that to be major swings. We sat down and went through things pretty thoroughly, so.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right, so moving on, unless anybody else has any questions, comments? All right. E2, Resolution 2023-03, increase of amount of special tax for fire protection and emergency services. Eric, did you want to?
Yeah, there's really not much to say. I mean, I gave you a pretty good staff report on this one. This is just an annual kind of ministerial action by the board. This is written into the ballot measures that were approved by voters, allowing for an increase equivalent to CPI. And the CPI for this past year was at 4.9%. That's been factored into the budget that you've already seen. Total revenue impact is just under $82,000 in revenue received. A little over $20,500 on the park side, and a little over $61,000 on the fire side for the two respective taxes. And all the numbers are in the things that show exactly what the total increase is. It's 1.8 cents per square foot for the fire, and it's a little over $11, I think, per parcel on the park.
Anybody have any questions? All right.
Motion to
No motion?
approve.
Okay.
I would move them one at a time.
Yeah.
And just motion on resolution
Yeah,
2023.
we're still on two. So I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, we are on 3, Resolution 2023-04, increasing the amount of special tax for park, open space, and street landscaping and maintenance. So we are on the next page.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Can I just make a comment before we vote?
Yeah.
This came up at the PNR meeting.
Mm-hmm.
There was, not formal discussion, but just the concept of how poor the median looks on Miller Creek was brought up by one of the PNR commissioners, and then kind of relating that to, the cut-throughs. And well, obviously I'm in favor of us doing this. I really do feel like we need to follow up on that conversation, that if we're asking people for more money, they should be getting something that looks nicer. And I don't know how to accomplish that right now, but that's what I'm saying. I think we should be starting a
And those
conversation.
are the areas that we've been discussing that although
Forever,
maintenance, we don't actually own, so
Correct.
it's hard for us to
Correct.
figure out how to pay for.
One of them we don't own.
Yeah.
We own all the ones that are,
Cut-throughs.
I call them cut-throughs,
The
yeah.
cut-throughs.
Probably not
We
the
don't.
official term. We own those, we don't own the median.
Yeah.
But then the county says that it won't maintain the median, right? Wasn't that part of the conversation?
Yeah. Yeah.
For lack
In a roundabout-
The county
roundabout
wants
way.
to
For lack of
say that
nuance.
it's our responsibility, and I've been going back and forth on it's theirs, and they said, well, we would really need to look at your founding documents and your formation documents, which I did look at, which it very clearly leaves this part out of the responsibilities the CSD would be taking on after year 1. So it's just a matter of kind of going back at them. We actually had a large limb fall from one of the eucalyptus trees between Las Colinas and Miller Creek on Thursday, Wednesday night. Whatever was the last rainy, kind of windy day. Fire crew got right on it and cut it up and moved it in the middle, and the park guys came by a day or two later and threw it all in
That's not a risk.
the thing. But it was a limb to the point where it blocked the entire road. You weren't gonna pass or anything like that. So they were good enough to get out there. This was all, 8:30 at night, and take care of that part of it. And then, like I said, our park guys, rather than just leaving a mess to dry out in the middle there. But the same conversation about those came up at the fire commission meeting recently. I mean, every month. So it's just a matter of, really kind of putting the county's feet to the fire on it. I'm a little, we rely on the county for a strong partner in a lot of ways too, but for them to kind of be pushing stuff on other agencies that aren't on them when they're the agency with significantly more resources than we have.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to handle that kind of delicate dance, and their DPW director is a pit bull.
Okay.
So she is, Yeah.
Is there a way
We've had
to
these
get very
conversations at
exact?
other public meetings.
Sure. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to bring
Yeah,
that
no,
up
I
before.
think we all are very, mind you, we are talking about, not that small of an increase, but a small increase, for parks and rec, but, for the parks, but those things do need to be addressed, and clearly we'd be happy to maintain anything as we are doing, but we just need help getting it looking nicer, and
Mhm.
we've all said to Eric that we're happy to do whatever he would like us to do in terms of making phone calls that would be helpful versus harmful to
Right.
the relationship that we need to have with the county. All right, so.
In saying that, I second your motion, Bill, if it was not already seconded.
Okay.
I think you already seconded it.
Oh.
I was just asking.
Love.
Okay. So all, we have a third, all right. So all in favor of resolution 2023-4, increasing the amount of special tax for park, open space, and street landscape maintenance?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. We are moving on to E4, the district manager report.
Good, I'll move through this quickly too. FEMA is what FEMA is right now. Our consultants are still kind of working on alternative plans, which is what FEMA requested, along with the recommended repair plan. We're still working on just kind of nailing down what is the damage description for FEMA to accept, because once that has been put in and accepted, that part is done, and you don't just say, creek bank failure. You gotta, 100 feet of creek bank by this tall, by this, so we're working on that. Otherwise, like I said from the very beginning, a FEMA claim is a process unto itself, so we're getting through as quick as we can. Spent a lot of time talking about the Marinwood Park play structure project, trying to work on getting an RFP done as quickly as possible, while also balancing the other projects and responsibilities, but with some of this stuff and the majority of the budget stuff out of the way, I'll be turning my attention there because I want to get that out as quickly as we can. I did want to talk about Measure A funding for just a minute. As you all know, I believe Measure A is the countywide parks measure that impacts parks and recreation, and is allocated to cities, towns, the county, and special districts that serve these types of functions, of which we are one. Luckily it passed, so it'll be effective again for the next 9 years. We've done a lot of good things with Measure A, beyond just putting a large portion of it towards the maintenance facility. We've done pool repair work, we've bought capital equipment with it, trucks, we've applied some to tennis court repairs, we've put a new floor in the community center along with air conditioning and a new HVAC system, so a lot of things. I'm expecting, based on the county, for this coming year, anywhere between 100 and 110,000. Luke and I have kind of looked through what some of our needs are. The district, primarily spurred by the board when this was first adopted, and staff certainly supported it, made a priority of this funding towards deferred capital maintenance, as well as new capital needs with Measure A funds, and that's what we've done with it since the inception. Staying in that, Luke and I certainly identified 2 large projects that we'd like to take on. One is the purchase of a new piece of park maintenance equipment that is really kind of a multi-purpose piece of equipment that will take place of replace aging mowers. It'll serve as a turf aerator, it serves as a mini excavator, it has attachments for an auger, another critical equipment that we typically spend money renting. So this would kind of replace all of it in one tool. And then the other thing we want to do is a more full resurface of tennis courts 3 and 4. We've certainly heard from some members of the community that, and we know of firsthand experience, that the top coat applications we have been doing just aren't holding anymore, so this would be a full sand down resurface of everything, and not a complete rebuild, but looking at those 2 things combined would be right around $70,000 in Measure A expenditures, which isn't the full amount we're allotted to, but I think these are the priorities and allows us to start to rebuild up our Measure A balance. So we can look at even larger types of projects potentially down the line, maybe the park bathrooms, maybe other large things that need to get done with it, so we can start to have a stockpile of this for capital purposes for Park and Rec. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
about the courts?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, yes, like that, Measure A, you know, they said that we could, as you said, use it for various things, and we had discussed doing deferred capital expenditures that we needed to do and upgrades. In terms of the tennis courts, how much more would a total redo, as you said, like?
To rebuild the courts?
Yeah, versus, and how much, like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, if it's a bit more, and then we solve this issue once and for all in more of a deeper matter, or is this, you know, full resurface going to fix the issue that we're having?
I can
Please.
speak to that, yeah. So, looking at the full rebuild would be, definitely be more expensive,
Yeah.
but also in the realm of something that Measure A would be able to fund, and we'd have to get bids for that. And,
Okay.
this will be a longer term solution than the top coat treatment that we've been getting that's been, originally was buying us a solid 3 years, and then kind of getting to 2 years, and then of course been lasting with maybe a season before the cracks are opening back up. It's getting to the point where it's not making sense to spend that money because it's just not getting us that. So this would be something that would, depending on the weather, which has a big impact on how long the court repairs hold, we would optimistically be looking at trying to get like 5 years out of the courts, and then at that point, you know, seeing what state they're in, that it might make sense, you know, around then to look at doing the full rebuild. But if we're not in a position to be able to do a big project like that on that timeline, the courts would probably become unplayable between now and when we would be able to have someone come and perform that work.
Okay.
Whereas this would allow us to keep the courts playable and plan ahead for a bigger project like that. So that's sort of our thinking on the approach to the courts, is to keep them playable in the meantime. If we decided to pursue a full rebuild as the next step, between now and that work actually getting done, I think we would have to shut the courts down for an extended period of time, which with them becoming dangerous to play on, with the cracks opening up and, you know, other things. So that's kind of where I was at on that.
So,
Yeah.
just to make sure I understand, so if we did a resurface, it wouldn't even last a season, but this could definitely last a season and give us the amount of time that we need in order to do the research and be able to get the planning and everything in place in order, if we needed to do a full rebuild. So it's not like we're putting an expensive Band-Aid on.
No, can I jump in for
Yeah,
a second?
please, yeah.
So a couple things. One, with the full rebuild, to Luke's point, then you get into like bidding, permitting,
Yeah.
everything else.
And that's
What we're doing versus what had been done. So what had been done is, you know, really what they call kind of a top coat, and this is going in, filling cracks, doing things, but it's not solving this. This is actually gonna kind of sand down the entire surface and
Okay.
re-put a new surface on the top, but it's not a full structural rebuild. To Luke's point, and this is conservative from the contractor who we've used for many years on the tennis things. I mean, he's always gonna give us conservative numbers, and he says, you know, like, that's gonna be a 5-year fix compared to what he's at the point where he's like, I don't even wanna do the top coat
Okay.
thing for you, even though you pay me for it, you're just kind of wasting.
Okay.
But this will also allow us to have a fresh start, know where we stand, and then understand is there truly structural issues, or is this just a matter of the surface level got to the point where, you know, Band-Aids aren't fixing it. So this is gonna take that down and put a new skin on top of it without a full structural rebuild. So if within 5 years you're getting these large cracks and waves and
Then we
things
know
like that,
that
then
we
you know
need-
you have a true
Okay.
structural
Right,
issue within the courts, and it requires a much larger project to fix.
Okay.
But this is gonna be a night and day difference from the treatment it has been
Okay.
getting. It's significantly more expensive than the treatment we've been doing for it too.
Perfect, I just wanted to confirm that
Yeah.
I
No,
was
no, no,
getting
this
it the
isn't,
right way.
this
We weren't-
isn't putting a bigger Band-Aid on a sharp bite. This
Okay.
is the next logical step to find out
Perfect.
where the true, how deep of a repair need. I mean, we could easily contract it out, jackhammer it up and redo it, but you might not actually really need to do that when this resurface and putting on a whole new top level, not just filling in cracks and smoothing out dips. This is.
So we're using the money wisely, okay, that's all I wanted.
100%.
Okay.
The-
Oh wait,
Sorry, go
Tiffany
ahead. No, go ahead.
was,
I thought those courts were also owned by Miller Creek School District, not us.
They're on Miller Creek property, but they're our responsibility to maintain. It's a partnership that we had with the school when we put them in and saying, can we put these on your property, but we'll maintain them? Because we had no other place on our property to put them. But they are technically our courts.
Does that make sense?
I'm going to, this has never really been discussed since my time on the board, maybe it was before. If we're gonna do this, would this open us up for creating a pickleball situation?
I'll let Luke handle that.
I feel like the backcourts, because I know that pickleball creates some noise, that's like the negative of that sport. But I feel like the backcourts are much more insulated.
Yeah, definitely from the nearby residents,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, pickleball's a big conversation,
Yeah.
and that's something we can definitely have again. Yeah, we do get requests now and again about pickleball. We also have a very healthy and active tennis community.
Right.
A lot of tennis courts that get turned into or get used as pickleball are courts that have been defunct, have been not being utilized in a lot of communities. We don't have that situation where we have like a lot of courts sitting around, gathering cobwebs that no one's utilizing. So it's a question of how to balance.
Absolutely.
Digging into something that's a thriving tennis community with classes. We have tennis leagues that play frequently all year round, as well as a lot of public use. So that it's going to be that's a very contentious issue.
Yeah.
On both sides.
On both sides, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that we want to tread very very carefully and we'll probably start slow with that.
Totally.
But yes,
Well,
it's definitely a conversation that's being happened at the staff
And
level for
maybe
sure.
when we do the future, if we're redoing that area, see what our abilities are to maybe put in another court or something like that, because I can tell you that when I was out there today, all of the courts were being used.
Oh yeah. No, I go by there probably as much as anybody, just
Yeah.
being
Probably
to and
more
from school. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And I totally hear you, and I know that's a long history of the community as a heavy duty tennis community.
Right.
It's sort of connected to the concept of lap swimming, right? And that we've had a lot of people who have been longtime lap swimmers who have very strong feelings about how we use the pool at certain times of the day. And I just wondered, like, if we're going to put money into it, could we, open up that thought process? And I certainly do not want to take the tennis courts away from the tennis people. That was for sure.
Absolutely not. And I think it's definitely a conversation that we should have.
Right.
I think especially putting a new.
I mean, if we're going to be,
If we're putting
yeah,
something
if
in
we're-
new, then yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Lisa, you
Well, no,
have-
I guess my question is a pickleball court fundamentally different than a tennis court? Are they have
Yes.
different nets and different,
It-
is that?
The two things are, they use a surface, they use a net, but they are not fully compatible in terms of the two activities being able to take place simultaneously necessarily, or be easy to switch back and forth depending on, so it's something that just has to be
So it has to be a
looked at.
dedicated
and-
pickleball court?
I mean, there could be, there's ways to be able to make it multi-use, and there's definitely, and we've had conversations about what would it look like to have one of the two lower courts be a court that could be used for both. What would that look like for league play, for matches, having extra lines on the courts, having equipment that needs to get brought out and taken down, and there's a lot of logistics that go into that, and this is a big recreation, park recreation conversation going on all over the country and beyond, that there's just a lot of, it's not simple, there's a lot of different things to consider, and a lot of people with a lot of opinions about it, so this is something that we,
A lot of litigation.
Yeah.
that's it.
Kathleen,
Literally.
Yeah, no, I know, I've read a lot of articles
I
on
have
it.
a follow-up question. What are the condition of our main courts?
The main court, or the courts closest to the street are, as historically and continue to be in much better, shape. They do still have cracks, they do have, they'll continue to need, maintenance and repair. The kind of treatment that we have been doing on both sets of courts, we've kind of been alternating back and forth, kind of on a roughly a 3-year cycle, for each court. The top courts, the front courts, courts 1 and 2, we call them, will continue to need, maintenance and repair work done to them, but they're not anywhere near, the problematic condition of the other courts. We're seeing much smaller, cracking that's able to be addressed with the kind of treatments we've been doing. Those have been holding on a lot better and longer, so.
Okay.
Bill, did you? No? Okay. I did want to say one last thing, is that this was discussed during an in-person meeting a few years ago, that the very active tennis community that we have, they do actually donate money to help us keep the courts in shape. And I do believe that there are some restrictions on how the courts are marked up for running competitions here.
Yeah, that's something we need to look into. I don't know
I
exactly
felt
what the.
like there was a comment about that years ago.
There was, yeah, and I don't know if that's changed. I know,
Okay.
I'd have to look back, I can't say for sure
So-
that, how pickleball and official USTA tennis matches and the lines, I'd have to, that's
So
something.
that's like a concern, because, it's basically robbing one group to give.
Oh, no,
So it's like one of
I
those,
totally
like-
get, it's not an easy
Yeah.
solution. I just thought since we're going to be doing more than just, a common resurface, that
Yeah.
maybe we could bring that back into the conversation.
I think
and see
it needs
what
to
the
come,
possibilities
yeah,
are.
for sure.
I-
There are lots of communities that have figured out ways, and I'd just love for us to, potentially be one of those communities, if it makes sense and if it's a possibility.
I think the Park and Rec liaison should have that conversation.
Absolutely, I'm sure it'll come up.
And maybe possibly, Luke, I'm sure this is on your radar already, but maybe when we look at the forward movement, if in 5 years, if we know that it's gonna need to be totally redone, what it would look like to add a section for pickleball. If Miller Creek District would be okay with us taking over more land and all that stuff, I think that would be, because then
Yeah,
that would be the
definitely
perfect
can-
solution for,
Can look into that
not
for
with
sure.
the amount of money that's gonna cost us, but, in terms of keeping everybody happy. All right, any other questions on the district manager report?
Do you want to go over the other items of note?
Yeah.
Not unless somebody has questions, Bob.
Nope.
No, just let us know as things are progressing. And I actually did have a little quick thing about the play structure replacement. If we decide or we recommend a structure that maybe is a little out of our budget, would we consider doing crowdsourcing, maybe letting the community know that we're kind of leaning towards something like this, but,
I don't think you'll have that kind of time.
okay.
Are we looking at which play structure we're picking?
The way that I envision this is we're gonna have, the RFP is gonna call for multiple, 2 to 3 design proposals per responsive bidder. Which will then allow us to kind of look within each bidder of what some of the different options are, and that'll be more happening at a P&R level, and then we were also gonna try to create some level of a special meeting or within the course of a P&R meeting, making sure the public is aware that these things will kind of be reviewed, give them a chance to come in, and by the time it gets to a board level, it'll really be a recommended design, vendor, and requesting approval of to enter the contract for it.
Simple question. Will there be pictures of these structures?
Within their proposals, I would assume so.
Okay, thank you.
And usually they do like renderings within your, that's what
Mhm.
AutoCAD and stuff does, so we should be, just like when Bill and the other people that proposed buildings came in with 3D mock-ups, on computer, I'm sure we'll be able to see something like that, right? Here.
I would
Like the
assume.
3D.
Never done it yet.
How do you do a proposal?
Want to make sure it's
Yeah.
not dimensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume that they'd have all the renderings and
Yeah.
pictures from other places and everything else.
Okay,
On the trail initiative, you have in your report that we have a biologist. Do we have any sense of a timeline?
I don't know the exact timeline, I think there's, 3 different kind of blooming season
Right.
periods when they have to be out there. One was, they've already gone and done one of them.
Okay,
I don't know the exact time, Chris, to be honest with you, in front of me on what
Fair,
that is for
yeah.
that to come back. But I know that's the one that kind of takes, and then the other ones can kind of happen at any time really, in terms of kind of the wildlife assessments, they're just looking for patterns and, evidence of stuff. But the plant one is the tricky one. 'Cause
Okay.
You gotta be out there while it's blooming, while
Okay.
things are in different various seasons. And then the cultural, assessment happening.
okay. So we're really waiting on this one. Once this one is done, then we'll follow up with the others.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
and I'll get back and find out what some of the other timings are on it. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that I got them engaged while I needed
Yeah,
them.
for sure.
right now, which is
Absolutely,
what
for
they're
sure.
doing. And then they're like, yeah, we'll have to come out a couple other times too. I was like,
Okay.
well, this is why I
Okay.
had you.
Cool.
is
All right.
there any information that you, besides what you wrote, that you wanted to share about the Spring Education Day? Was it exciting to see people in person?
It was a good event, but no, not much to share. I mean, it was a conference, you know, Lisa and I went, Robin went, it was good that we were all there. I was really happy Robin came with us too. I think it was a good event for her. She's already been rolling with, some of the stuff she learned and is already looking at, she's working with the contact at SDRMA to update our injury illness prevention program and everything
Okay.
else. So she was taking the ball and she's running with it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome.
I'm blown away. So I'm really, couldn't be happier.
Perfect.
Great.
All right. Did you have another question you wanted to ask that I will repeat for you?
No, I'm good. Thanks for covering that, even though you said it was fine.
All right, moving on to fire department matters. We have the draft minutes of the fire commission meeting, April 4th. Anybody have any questions? Do you want to add stuff to it?
We talked about eucalyptus again, just wanna add that to the list.
The specific area of the branch top? Yeah, okay.
The whole thing,
Okay.
I learned a word. It's an exit, egress?
Egress.
Had no idea what that meant. Should carry a dictionary when you go to these fire commission meetings. No, I also wanted to just express that it was our first meeting in person. It was really nice to actually meet the commissioners and thank them face to face and finally be at like a real functioning meeting. And I had to leave early, so I don't know if Ron got up and left like he would leave the calls. So nice, good job. Yeah, and then the other thing that we kind of discussed, which I didn't even think about, and Chief White can cover a little bit more too, because it's an in-depth conversation, was it's the cost, what's the phrase? Recover, cost recovery for our community, and like, John brought up that, and it was actually a very interesting conversation about when our fire truck goes out and emergency calls, even on the freeway, or to a resident that doesn't have a someone living there, a visitor, what the, cost to recover would be. And it's a long drawn out.
Who's paying for it?
Correct, right now we are, and so it was actually a very good point that he brought up, but again, it's a long conversation and a lot of work to try to recover some funds, so it's a give and take, but.
How much some cost versus, yeah.
Correct, yeah, the time and energy to go into a few bucks versus, just letting it go, so. But it was nice to hear from our commissioners and actually thinking about our whole community and how they can also support us during this fire season. And then the last thing I wanna add is sign up for your Clipper Days, because it's a free thing and you guys should be taking advantage of it, because I did, all you.
All right, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you all this evening. I'm gonna piggyback on the conversation regarding the eucalyptus. And after hearing that we had, a limb fall and our crews had to go out and respond, I think, we can continue to make the case somehow or another that this may fall, or this project or type of project could fall under the zone, if not Marin specific, maybe within the entire zone itself. And so And it directly has a nexus to the first item that I'm gonna speak to is the Executive Director of the MWPA, Mark Brown, told us that the study that's taking place right now regarding the evacuation, ingress, egress, risk assessment is progressing well. The Sonoma Technology folks that are actually doing the risk assessment study have been gathering all the data, and it looks like they're moving forward and probably identifying those key risk factors that make us vulnerable when it comes to evacuation, ingress, and egress. And so with that, they're looking at different traffic models, different types of fire communication, different types of fuels, where they're located, and this is where I think we could try and attempt to make a case that although the county may have possession here, the impact is actually happening here in Marinwood. And as fire chief, I'll do what I can to advocate for it. I'm gonna work with Quinn. I'm gonna also have some conversations with Mark Brown, because I see them tomorrow during the Ops Committee meeting, and hope that I can kind of push this conversation so that we can see if, even if they can't remove or make it more sightly, maybe they can thin out some of the eucalyptus, reduce some of the risk, take a step in the right direction, hopefully to help us with this issue. I can't make any promises because again, I don't control it, but I can attempt to influence it as best I can. So those conversations with our own vegetation management staff, Quinn Gardner, who heads up our vegetation management effort. The zone-specific projects are actually underway right now and being evaluated. So if it's not gonna happen for this coming year, I could see if there's a way to push it and get it aligned for the next work plan in the next cycle, which that means we're still waiting 12 more months again, but at least we know, hopefully, that there's something targeted for a specific future date. And so I just want you to know I'm gonna attempt to do what I can. I just can't make any promises, that's the only problem.
Let us know if we can make any phone calls to support your phone calls.
Okay, or maybe even a crafted letter or something may help as well.
Yeah, let us
Yes.
know what would help and not be a hindrance, and we will provide.
Absolutely, absolutely. The 2023-24 work plan has been underway for quite some time. The Advisory Technical Committee and the Ops Committee will be, as I stated, the Advisory Technical Committee's already met, the Ops Committee meets tomorrow, and they're gonna do more follow-up to ensure that the projects align with what's already been identified as zone-specific projects and whether those projects fall within the budgeting parameters that were suggested by the ATC and more than likely also the, can't even think of Citizens Oversight Committee, thank you. So, more information will follow on that. But again, this is an extension of all the work that's been going on for the past 3 years, so you're just gonna see some projects that are continuation projects and some new projects probably surfacing as well that have a zone-wide impact, not just a localized impact. So more to follow on that. City of San Rafael Wildfire Mitigation Grant Program. This grant still remains available to all Marinwood residents, and so we're encouraging folks to reach out and go to the website, cityofsanrafael.org/wildfire-mitigation-grant-program/ and at least apply and see if the funding is available so that individuals who otherwise haven't considered this, there may still be funding available for projects, and they don't necessarily have to be need-based projects. So I would say I encourage folks who you know might benefit from this as well. Upcoming chipper program for all neighborhoods. Eric was gracious enough to help put the schedule together for what's coming up in the way of all of the chipper days, as Director Kilkenny was suggesting. We should all take advantage of this. These are free programs. The chipper, I wish, I could get chippers in my neighborhood where I live, but unfortunately that's not a reality. But this is a great opportunity to get all of this fuel removed from your property and at no cost and at a very convenient manner. You're just really putting it street side and they're coming up and removing the clippings from your property. So this schedule has like 5 different rounds, and it starts May 15th and goes all the way through until the 2nd week in November. So
Can you sign up more than once?
That's a great question. I think it may be possible, but the question is whether or not they're going to still come back into your neighborhood in that particular zone over the course of that 5 or 6 month window. So I don't know, they may actually add additional chipper days because they've done so in the past. It just may be need-based, especially if you and a group of neighbors or in a community area all have a substantial need still and it wasn't met with the first chipper day. Maybe you can make a compelling case for them to go back and send a separate chipper response.
So just to confirm, we are considered Sangerville.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's week 5 for people who are looking. Week 10,
Mhm.
week 17, and week 22.
And week 27. Yep. And if we get any other additional information about the neighborhoods that they're gonna be in specifically during those weeks, I'll make sure I share that with everyone as well.
Well, it will be on Quiet One on the 12th. Cause I've already signed
Oh,
up.
well then, okay.
So what does that process look like? Do you just go online and,
You just put in your address and it tells you when you'll be there. Now
okay,
I just gotta get that tree taken out so it can take limbs.
okay.
So they do, so it isn't just brush, so if you have a tree taken, if you take a tree down and not for tree service, they will take away, like what you're saying?
Limbs.
Limbs, okay.
Limbs, they generally have a device that you can feed certain size limbs and branches into, and it'll chip it away and they can haul it right
And
out.
on the website when you sign up, it will let you know what the maximum,
Correct.
perfect.
20
The
feet by
details.
4 feet by 4 feet.
Okay, just confirming that if anybody watches our video,
Yep.
Oh, there's a video?
there's a video and we post it.
And so there's also a link here, reserve.chipperday.com/Marin, so there may be more additional information there as well. Direct assistance remains available free of charge. It is on a fairly limited basis, but they're using the Fire Foundry and they're using other volunteer work to actually come out and really get some great work done. I've seen a lot of the before and after photos from last season, and they're impressive. They're individuals who are now skilled, and if they're continue to use those same individuals, their skills are improving. So it doesn't look like they butchered your yard. They actually have some other folks that are, overseeing what the work they do
You
and
mean
making
it's
sure
not
that it's,
PG&E coming and trimming your trees? Sorry.
or removing them in some cases, yes. So, so I would certainly encourage that as well.
Are
Sounds
we,
right.
Trees?
are we reaching out also to people who we've done it maybe 3-4 years ago that might need assistance again? So I'm thinking about older people and stuff that we've already helped, and things grow, especially with all the rains that we've had.
I think sometimes we get referrals from neighbors, and sometimes those individuals may reach back out directly themselves. I don't know
Okay.
that we're reaching out directly to them,
Okay.
because now we're
You
in
got
the
so
4th
many
year of
people.
this, and I think everyone knows
Yeah, okay,
that we're here and we're providing the service.
okay.
But please make any referrals that you might deem necessary, especially if you see an area that goes untreated or unattended for some reason.
Okay.
There could be somebody who's absent or somebody who just, for whatever reason, has chosen not to engage, and we can certainly send somebody out to their property if we haven't already.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Is this one that goes out through our next door posting or anything like that?
Mhm.
Just to let our community know?
On these, it has
Okay.
in the past, yeah.
Okay,
I've seen
okay. I'm not on next door, so I wouldn't know.
it. I get
What
the
is
I
words.
try not to be.
Yeah, avoid
I
that.
get the words.
There's a
Okay.
video.
Okay, go ahead. Chase.
No, no worries. So I'm gonna move on to actually the PG&E incident that occurred a few weeks back, where we had the landslide that ran parallel to Highway 101. So just, it's a great exercise in seeing how well an agency can respond and get ahead of trying to ensure that our utilities are not adversely impacted or disrupted for an extended period of time. They put a lot of resource and a lot of boots on the ground to make sure they address this relatively quickly and over that particular weekend. So with a lot of success, I know they had staged like several different gas tankers off-site in case, for instance, there was a disruption, they needed to go and help with the hospital and ensure there was continuity of operations there. So hats off to PG&E and those that assisted with trying to ensure that the disruption was kept to a very significant minimum. But that being said, work continues there and in other areas that were impacted, as you can see in the photos. I was driving through the Cordelia area and saw what looked like a similar thing that was happening on the roadway there. And it just reminded me of what was going on in Novato. And even though I didn't lay eyes on Novato, you could see clearly the work that was taking place. It was almost in parallel, so it made me assume that there were similar issues and challenges they faced there. So that being said, from what I understand, everything's back up to normal. There's no further disruption with water or gas. Steve Ferraro, the mechanic that's worked on the San Rafael, the Marinwood, the Kentfield, the Central Marin, and all of the other agencies' apparatus in the immediate vicinity, has decided to retire, and I understand take on the employment elsewhere at Diego's Truck Service.
Oh,
And I didn't know about the Diego's part until just the other day.
so is that where we're setting fire trucks down?
Well, that's the irony of it. We had already been using their services to supplement us, and so now it's like, well, maybe not so much now. We don't know. We'll see. So anyway, that being said, you know, he was very gracious and very, you know, happy to have a retirement ceremony, if you will, with the San Rafael Fire Association providing him with a helmet. I gave him a small token of appreciation. He had given me a plaque that said, "Without us, they walk." And he gave me that when I first got to San Rafael Marinwood, and I thought, oh, he's really sending me a message here, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, thank you, I think, you know. So I actually had the same thing created for him, and he's holding it in his hand in this picture.
I see that, it looks like
And
a
it
little
just says,
fireman.
with
Like-
many thanks.
Yeah.
So, you know, just, it was something he actually created and used to design, and had a helmet, and instead of axes and pike poles, it had a big giant wrench. So it was a, you know, kind of unique thing that, you know, we just gave back, and I think he was touched by it, but,
In the photo, he looks touched. So.
yeah, there was a lot of people that showed up too, a lot of retirees and some other folks that worked with Steve along the years, and some who actually helped him get on board and becoming a mechanic in San Rafael. So it was nice listening to some of those stories, but Steve's moved on, and so I just wanted to share this only because we're also looking to ensure that we bring in a quality, capable individual who has the ability to work on our pumps, has the ability to work on diesel engines, maybe even has the ability to start working on electrical apparatus, because as we start looking at transitioning away gradually from some of the fossil fuels and other things that we've been using over the last 100 years or so, we need someone who understands historically how to work, but also is looking an eye towards what's on the horizon here. So, that being said, we've heard of an individual in the Santa Rosa area that may be interested in the position, who becomes highly regarded. And there may be some individuals coming from CAL FIRE who have a lot of mechanical aptitude and background working on a wide variety of apparatus. So hopefully we'll have some a job announcement out here in the next couple of weeks that we can post and start interviewing candidates and get somebody back on board here. In the meantime, we've made some arrangements with the Department of Public Works mechanics. We also still have Diego on tap. We also have Santa Rosa. They have a pretty nice facility, I understand, up there. So we're able to take care of our needs in the meantime. I just wanted to assure you that despite his departure, it's not like it's going to
And
create
you
an
told
issue.
the guys to be really careful with the road now. No spilling things.
Yeah, you know, it's something because I think, you know, for the most part, I got to say, I'm really, you know, I got to knock on wood somewhere before I say this, or as I say
Just
it.
don't say it, just don't say it.
That we have folks that do very well behind the wheel and do well troubleshooting and making sure that the apparatus are operating, you know, optimally and under safe practices and best practices. And, you know, I got to tell you, I'm really pleased with that, because where I came from, I used to do accident reviews. And so I was part of the accident review board process, and there was so many incidents. But it was in part because of the drivers, part because of their inexperience, part because of their judgment, and in part because of the other drivers on the road. And it just all came in to make a melting pot of accidents. They were preventable, some that were non-preventable, but quite often very preventable. But we don't seem to have that issue, and I'm really grateful for that. And it speaks to the professionalism and the caution that our drivers use. So they're well trained, they do very well. And then last but not least, and I say this at every meeting, sub 6 minutes, as usual. Excellent turnout and total response time. In the last meeting, I told the story of a movie I was watching called Firehouse. This movie was from the 1970s, and there were two guys that were in direct opposition to each other. They didn't like each other. The one guy was African American. He was a new probationary, we call new kids. And the other guy was a senior Italian. He may have been a firefighter or an engineer or a captain. And ideologically, they butted heads. And for whatever reason, they weren't getting along. And it got to a point where they decided they were going to knuckle up about it and solve it between themselves, not going through the chain of command, not going through a formal process. But let's go down in the basement of the firehouse and settle this between us once and for all. And so they started. But to their credit, when the tones went off, they both stopped. And they looked at each other and they had this agreement that this has to wait because we have to go. And so I just share that story because they understood 50 years ago when that movie was made, much like the firefighters 50 years before them and another 50 years before them, all understood that getting out the door is the most important thing if you're gonna make a difference, whether it's a fire or an EMS call. And that movie showed it perfectly. And I don't know that very many people have ever seen that film, but that's the one image I remember in the movie. I don't think I even saw the rest of the movie, but the idea is I saw that part, and I was just like, yes, they got it, they showed it in film. So I've always been really big on this because I know how important it is to get out the door to be able to have a timely response. And our members just show this day in, day out. They're the example. They set the bar on how to get out and get on scene quickly. And so I'm gonna stop saying that every time because it's sounding old, I'm sure,
No.
but I just, sub 6 minutes it's amazing. So
We
What's
got it.
NFL's time?
it ranges. Sometimes there's sub 6 minutes, but I have a dashboard in my office and I can see average total response or turnout times. So I can get a sense of how quickly people are getting out the door. And I'm happy to say most of the time I'm looking at a minute and 10, minute and 20. But I'm familiar with response or out the door times that are far beyond those. And there's for a variety of reasons, but I got to give them credit in San Rafael as well. They're doing an excellent job getting out the door quickly. Some other agencies, I've seen a slower sauntering to the rig, and you get on the rig and you cue up the mic, and now that stops the clock, if you will. I don't see people doing that. I see people getting with deliberate and intent to get on the rig and get out the door, and that's what you want. You want people to understand this is what you do. Especially when you're bringing in new firefighters into the organization, they have to see that example because that's how they learn it, that's how they replicate what they know, and they pass it on to the next generation of firefighters. So,
Great.
so that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can I just follow up?
Yeah.
We encourage our firefighters to solve their personal differences in a much more civil manner. I'm just, we'll make sure we get that out there.
This was
I think
before.
we're guys like each other a little bit more than that, I hope.
Oh, no, this was, again, decades old practice before there were laws and other things that started to really impact what would happen in the firehouse.
HR.
These were back in the days when the battalion chief, not even the chief of the department, the battalion chief had the ability that if he or she didn't like you on their crew, they would send you and banish you to a station. You wouldn't be seen again for maybe the rest of your career because they just had the ability. They were chief officers and it was I won't even call it implied, but it was an actual power that existed. And so it's a different reality now. So yeah.
Much more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much for your time.
I do have a fire question that I probably should have asked at our commission meeting. The update to find an additional firefighter.
Continues. We actually had a really good interview this morning, so we're still moving forward with that process. Ads are still out there. We're still taking in apps.
Okay,
Perfect.
I figured.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we should tout every month the average time because it's a testament that as you said, you thought that the numbers were rigged and something was broken, but no, it's the way it is. And thank you, and also, you were plugging the CHIPPR program, I'm going to plug the mitigation grant program in the defensible space, hardening inspections, it's super easy to call. They would prefer you to be home when they come do the walkthrough, but they can do the walkthrough and then talk to you. And then they give you a code, and then you go in and submit your stuff for what you've done, or what you're gonna do once you've got the receipts, and super easy, and you can it basically double dips. too.
Or you can use the assistance and not even do it yourself.
Well, no, because when the defensible space and home hardening inspections and the mitigation grant, that actually includes windows, siding, and other things that you're doing to make your home more defensible. So if this is things that you need to do, and you've been hemming and hawing about it, I suggest that you do it because you can get some money back and it's not all out of pocket, so. But yeah, and I believe that once you do that, you can also get a reduction in your insurance for your home. So another pain for why, but thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
All right, if you would like to stay with us, please do, otherwise, you want to probably get home. So.
You know what? I would stay, but I think in this case I'm gonna get home. I gotta get some medicine in my eye.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So but I appreciate the invite, perhaps the next time.
I have just regular eye drops if you need those.
Oh, no, that's,
Okay,
thank
single,
you.
I have single use, all right, sorry.
That's
Okay, moving on to Parks and Rec. I have my mommy emergency there, so.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Parks and Rec matters, we have the draft minutes of Park and Recreation Commission.
Yeah, actually, we've kind of covered a lot of what we covered. Obviously, the big one was the playground structure replacement project. We talked about the commission's got updated on the creek issue, and the fact that we are actively trying to get rid of our shipping containers, but that's not proving to be as easy as one might think. So
I guess my question for that is, at what point, like, what, if we can't find somebody, what do we do? Like, what is our point at which we say, okay, we couldn't find somebody, we now need to move on to plan B?
I don't know, and I don't even know what a plan B would be.
That's what I'm
They need to
asking.
find a home. So we'll cross that bridge, and, you know, to be honest, it's just something that Luke and I haven't had a ton of time to dedicate towards too, but we are moving on, just getting those fences out anyway.
This is also one of those things where we had a bunch of interested parties approach us and say, I want to buy those, and then that didn't materialize, so we weren't actively going out there, and then, so that was one that's kind of prolonged the process. Sorry, but I'll speak to that more.
Can I just ask a
Yeah.
quick question? Approximately how much does one cost? Or what are we, like,
How much does one cost to buy? Like, we bought them for $4,500 each.
And that included adding some customization too. We
Right.
added some like custom doors on them, so
huh,
they could be less if you got them straight off the yard without any modification.
Right.
and how much are we selling them approximately?
How much you wanna give me for them?
I think the biggest.
To the highest bidder, you know, at this point.
I know this.
But they also need to take them and arranging transport and everything else like that. And we had been waiting a little bit because it was so incredibly saturated out there that
True.
just moving those would have done a lot of damage too. So, but we're getting there, and it'll be something to focus on. We certainly want them out. Robin definitely wants them out, so she has space, more space for summer activity and everything else.
If a horrible thing happens and we don't get them out by summer, which will not happen, but I'm gonna put that up, could we at least reduce the fencing so it's even smaller around it, so Robin has more space?
Yeah, I was going to mention this in my report, but I'll say that the fencing is scheduled to be picked up next week.
So now we're gonna have then people tagging it though.
I mean, potentially.
Then you paint it.
Okay,
I just attack the fence too, you know. I mean,
Okay,
it's
yeah, I
not-
just wanna make sure that, okay, because there is the 2 containers and there's a couple things in there from last time I peeked that were.
Yeah, it's all just
gone
ranged,
now?
yeah, I mean, it's, when the fencing comes down, it's all stuff that has another place to be.
Okay, alright, go ahead, Chris, sorry.
no, that was pretty much it. Unless I'm looking at my notes. 80% of the meeting was the play structure.
Okay.
Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yeah.
You did this agenda, the next, your benches that you want?
Those came up at the end, and it's just all about the ability to get up there now that it's kind of drying out. So yes, it's all on there. We talked about the median a little bit. There's some items of interest from commissioners that will be coming up around the median and potentially looking at community work type days. Yeah.
So in terms of the benches, do we have a design in mind?
I don't think we've gotten that far yet, right? The idea is, I think we're even still trying to finalize where they would go, and because of the wet weather that's been,
Yeah,
in addition to other things that are a higher priority for sure.
okay.
But I think those would be next steps.
When I was in Europe, there was these really cool benches on various little trails that they have along the rivers in Switzerland. And they basically were metal and they folded up within themselves so that, let's say it was like this long, it was this thin. Because you would come over and you would push it down to sit down.
I saw those at IKEA.
And then,
I don't
these
know.
are a little bit more high-end than IKEA, but it was super cool. I did take some pictures so I can dredge up those pictures. I did not see, my husband was cracking up because I was examining the benches to see if I could find the company name. He was like, what are you doing? And I was like, these would be great in Marinwood. And he was like, oh, But,
I would guess we couldn't bring them in from Switzerland.
I'm just saying, we could,
Do we want metal up
but
there?
I'm just saying, they have the snow, the heat, the everything, and they looked really nice. I'm sure that they have tagging there on their park stuff, because I saw it on, like, overpasses and stuff, so it looked clean, and that was the only reason that I was thinking about it, but it was cool that it folded itself up,
No, it
so
sounds-
that,
sounds
you'd only came out when you needed it, and with the rain, the water was like coming into, then you didn't have like the snow issue where like you gotta clear it off for the snow, because it alright, anyways.
good. Yeah, send some photos.
Okay.
We have a couple.
For the snow that we get.
We have a
No,
couple benches on
no.
hand too.
Okay.
For, I mean, as far as like.
Just getting this thing
that would
started.
be pretty robust for, you know, out and whatever.
Perfect.
Just try out,
Yeah.
if we needed to. We do have some that we're waiting to put somewhere, so.
Cool.
Alright,
But I think Chris hit the nail on the head.
we just-
Staying off those roads as much as possible until they dry out
Yeah.
as much as possible, because they get torn up real fast. I know PG&E accessed the roads, actually over in Lucas Valley Estate, and did a lot of damage to the Louise Fire Road, to the point where the county's kind of trying to go after them to fix it. So, we're getting there.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, park and recreation, maintenance, activity report. Luke?
Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, so yeah, the pool's open, which is the big, most recent news, I guess, which is great. Where it's been great to see all the lap swimmers down at the pool and some rec swimmers and a lot of regulars. And this week it's been fun. The weather's been so nice. We've got our spring break camp swimming the last 2 days, which has been
Oh,
great to have
nice.
some kids in the pool. So yeah, big thanks to John Paul and actually to Robin and Carolyn and helping get all that stuff done down there in time to open up on the 3rd, it's our opening day. But that's been going great. We've got some new staff and some returning staff working down there. We're running kind of a similar schedule that we had the last handful of years for the spring. We're running lap swim, recreation swim, 7 days a week. We have pool parties happening on the weekends. The top pool's open every day. And then we're offering some lifeguard classes this spring. Chris has a water polo program, and then we have the swim team, and we'll be doing some private swim lessons. So that's sort of the spring offering of programs at the pool as of right now. And then, of course, that'll increase as we get into summer. So we're excited about that. Everything seems to be going well down there. We're still have some things to prep for later in the season, but overall the pool's very functional and coming along. So that's been a good load off, just having all that all in place and ready to go. And the internet's working great down there, which was pretty spotty for a while. So we got a whole new cable running and everything's
Is that
working
since
well.
the beginning of? Because the last time I was down there, the Wi-Fi was kind of spotty.
Yeah, no, it's all
It's now
up and
back,
running. So yeah, it's a recent development.
Okay, I had a couple people say to me, "You're on the board, why can't we get on the Wi-Fi?" I was like,
Yeah,
"I'm working on it."
it was a long
Okay.
process, but yeah, so that's been good. And then, as I mentioned, the spring break camp is happening this week. We've got 3 different camps taking place, and we're very thrilled to have the sun out and be able to have the kids be outside. And it was getting a little iffy there, getting closer to this week. So that's been going really well this last 2 days. It's been great to see a lot of our summer camp staff that are in town from school and ones on break from high school have been leading those camps, and we sometimes like to throw a few of our people that we're going to be promoting in the summer. We're going to try them out during the spring break camp and see how they do, and give them a little bit of a training time for them as well. So that's been going well so far this week. Registration continues to be strong for summer camps. Our camps are filling up. We still have a few random spots. For some reason, the 4th grade camp has some spots in it, and that's the one that has the most availability right now, which has never happened before. So
Going into 4th grade or?
okay, entering 4th grade, yeah. So but everything else is pretty much full except for some of the 4th of July, the weeks of 4th of July, which tends to be a lower enrollment week every year. And then our contracted enrichment and sports specialty camps, as we call them, always are slower to fill up, so we're pushing those and marketing those right now. It was a disappointment. Our catalog of programs, I think I mentioned this in the last meeting, but it got delayed. I think some weather-related thing trucks couldn't get the paper or whatever, so our catalog came out way later than we were expecting, and I think people that need summer camp were in the know. We did a lot of digital marketing and got the word out, and people knew what to do for summer camp registration, but I think it has impacted some of our other registration for spring programs and some of the other camps, so we are trying to make up for lost time. The catalog's out, I think,
I have
hopefully you guys
not
all
received mine in the mail.
you engaged in the mail, so it looks like we didn't get delivery to all of the different neighborhoods. Did you ever end up getting one there?
Nope.
Nope. So, but your neighbors did, it
But
sounds like.
some of my,
Yeah.
some of my neighbors.
I would never, that would
I
be
don't,
my guy.
no, I didn't pay attention, I didn't know.
Yeah, so, it's out,
I'll
it's
let you know.
online, we have some hard copies, if you guys wanna pick one up on your way out,
I
I'll give you a special copy. And
You sign
we
it?
are looking at alternative printers for the next round, because we were disappointed with our service this time, but we continue to market all of the programs and camps and swim lessons that have availability throughout the spring, and we expect everything to be, pretty full for going into summer, so but we're not worried about that at all, and registration continues to go smoothly for all of our summer programs. This last weekend, we had kind of two different events happening here at the community center. The Lions Club annual Easter egg hunt was on Saturday, and I didn't have a chance to attend. Were you, any of you, did anyone make it to that?
I wasn't, but,
It was cool.
it was jam-packed.
Yeah, I heard it was
The parking was all the way up to the top of Miller Creek.
Oh, okay, that's good, yeah.
Our neighborhood was also full,
Yeah.
but
It
we
was
didn't.
cool.
I heard it went really well, super fast as always,
Always.
and I commend, I was here later in the day, and you would never know that event had taken place. So big thanks to the Lions for being great stewards of the park and leaving no trace of a massive Easter egg hunt. There was no trash, I didn't find any eggs in the park.
I heard there's some eggs in the office though.
There are definitely some eggs in the office. But yeah, later in the day, there was actually a memorial service for Duncan McSwain, who had taught photography classes here for about a decade. They had used the community center for that service, and a couple of us from the staff attended that. And it was a really lovely memorial, and I'm really glad I got to be there and hear more about his life and hear from friends and family. And they said some really nice things about his time teaching classes here at Marinwood, which I wasn't expecting them to he has a very impressive resume and legacy and a very exciting life, and I didn't think his kind of semi-annual photography classes at the community center would make the mention, but they did call it out, and I think it was a source of great joy for him in this last part of his life, that he really enjoyed that, and saw the community center as a very special place for him, and he had some of his students from his classes were there, and so that was really neat, and they actually mentioned us and our rec staff for being a part of his life, and so that was really neat, and we were really happy to be a part of that. And then it dawned on me that it's going to be really hard to find someone else to fill that void. So we'll definitely be looking for another instructor, but happy to be be a part of that legacy. So that was really neat. And then the only other thing I would mention is just our next event is going to be our spring art show, which takes place on Saturday, April 22nd, from 3 to 7 here in the reception hall. I think we do have one art installation that might be out in the park, weather dependent, which would be cool. But that show's called Lines and Layers, and our show's always a great time. Susan Press, once again, has organized this show,
Oh, wow.
and we will be we'll be here putting it on. So if anyone wants to stop by, it's a free event, and then it's always wonderful artwork. So, I guess that's my rec side. I won't talk too much longer. I realize I have a whole other half of my report to go, but
Can
you have
ask
any
a
questions about the
question really
recreation
quick?
before? Yeah, I'll speak up.
Is there a huge benefit besides community outreach to keep printing the catalog?
Yes, the catalog is, and this comes up a lot in the Park and Recreation Society conferences that we attend, and the information and the surveys that come out. The physical catalog is seen as vitally crucial. It's our most important marketing platform. It's the thing that gets the word out to the most possible people. It's the thing that gets new families finding out about our programs that aren't already aware of our brand and of our thing, and it's Yeah, and we actually have a lot of great evidence for this. We get testimonials from different cities and organizations that have abandoned the catalog over the years and gone back to it very quickly after they saw their program participation and just community participation and just being able to touch with their program participants, their customers, and their members of the community just plummet very quickly. And so it's one of those things you think in the digital age, do we really need this physical magazine? It costs money to print. It takes a lot of work to do this. We can just do it all online. And the consensus very strongly is that it actually is important to have a physical catalog going out mailboxes. There's nothing that quite equals that. You get lost in the noise. There's so much online traffic and noise and things that people contend with, and the catalog plays a special role that we haven't found anything that really to supplant that yet. So we'll continue to put emphasis on that.
But there's also some advertisements and stuff, so we're not totally, it's out of pocket. There is some of it that is.
Right, there's a little bit of it that we get a little back from advertising, and there's other community events and information that gets put out. It's not just it's not just classes and programs and camps. So
I
there's
wasn't
some information
implying
there.
to remove it, I was just
Asking.
Oh.
I'm just saying,
And
but I'm
thank
also.
you.
I'm
I
also
know, I
saying
get it,
that-
but I was,
Yeah, no, it's a valid question. It's something that we've
So-
definitely had that conversation over the
thank
years
you
many
for
times.
staying up to date on that as well.
Yeah, well, so it'd be a great thing to it would be less work, it would save some money, but we think it's a vital part of our program, what we're trying to do. So
I work with younger people and I 100% respect and agree with what you're saying. I like paper. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
that's good. And people they bring it in. Any other questions about the rec half of the report? Well, I'll briefly just mention a couple things from my part. I'm not going to read my whole report, but the staff spent a lot of time getting the pool ready. The staff on the parks maintenance side, and a big thanks to them for getting out there and making sure everything was ready to go for opening day, which they did. And there's still a few things we'll be doing this spring. And we had some drains replaced a couple weeks ago, which was great. We had a scuba diver out there and put new drains in, which was fun to watch. But the other big parks news, and this just applies to me, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I did just complete a recertification to be our certified playground safety inspector, which is a 3-year certification. This is the second time that I've had to go and take a course and test for that. So I'm very relieved to be done with that for another few years.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it's actually a super rigorous course. It put a lot on this. Is harder than anything I did in college, I was an English major.
Kid safety is no joke.
No, it's actually a really good course, and it's really
Okay.
valuable information, and it's good to have somebody to have that information on staff, that all of our staff can be on the same page about how to approach our playground safety and inspection, especially with the equipment we currently have. It's getting older and more prone to damage and hazards, and so I got a lot of great information I've been sharing with staff, and I'm happy to have that. So it's something that not every place has someone in-house on that, because you could contract some of those inspections out, but it is great having our whole staff knows how to approach the playgrounds, how to make repairs, what to look out for, and I think you would lose that not having someone that can have that on hand. So
It's a big deal, and Luke spent a lot of time getting ready for it. And I'm glad you brought it up because I made a note to highlight it too. We're very fortunate to have Luke and his willingness and ability to do this for us. So it's cleaners. So it's a big deal, Luke. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, and I didn't mean to just to toot my eyes. I was happy to do it, and I was happy to be able to take some time to be able to do that during the workday, and so I appreciate that. Because that was otherwise, it wasn't like it was 3 years ago. I've got another kid now, and it's like, how am I going to find time to study for this?
I remember 3 years ago when we were excited that you were doing it.
Yeah.
And so I'm super excited that you agreed to do it again.
Okay, yeah,
So
no,
thank
it's
you.
worthwhile. It's worthwhile. So, and then so staff have continued. They're doing some work out at Creekside Park and getting ready for our big spring turf treatment. We're getting to make sure everything they're going to be testing irrigation, we'll be aerating the turf and reseeding and doing all of that. So that's coming up in the coming weeks. Hopefully the weather continues to be beautiful and dry, and we can, you know, kind of do things as normal and not have any more winter. But that's been a nice thing to have a few days to get out there, and now you can see all the weeds are just going up. So that's going to be a big chunk of our time as well, is just trying to keep ahead of that. But yeah, so there's plenty of stuff that the park staff is working on right now, just to keep everything looking good into the spring and keep the pool functional. But let me know if you have any questions about parks maintenance, anything I didn't touch on or did.
I'll just say, being the guy that's at the pool every day, the pool has been fantastic this year. It's, you know, I know firsthand how tricky it is to maintain the chemicals and the area and everything like that, and there has not been one day where it hasn't been at 100% ready to roll for the swim team, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, thanks for saying that, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glad to hear.
I did have a question. There's the two lights that are behind. There's that one light that wasn't working. Is that planned to be fixed, or is that
the floodlights?
Yeah, it would be the westernmost floodlight, the one
that's news to me. So that one's not.
Okay.
That one's not working.
it wasn't working as of last Friday.
And that was the one on the other post.
So you know how there's the two that
Yeah.
basically are on either side of the slides? It'd be the
Yeah.
one closest to like where we actually coach, not the deep end, but that one hasn't been working.
But the other one was on.
The other one is
Gotcha.
working, and that one is not.
That is, I don't have anything to report on that.
Okay.
We'll have to look
Okay,
at that.
maybe I thought I conveyed that to JP, and maybe I didn't.
And he might already.
A lot of things happen in my head that don't really happen in real life.
Hopefully that's just simply a bulb replacement, which we do have.
Right, right.
Hopefully that's the extent of it, but I'll let you know.
Or maybe it's a switch
And
that
then-
isn't on.
This also came up at the PNR meeting a little bit. We, in losing a great community member, Brian DeSanto, I can't remember if Ryan asked about a tree. Is there a process? I've been getting texts and emails about like, hey, you know, is there a way for us to put a tree up in the park in memory of Brian?
Plant a
Yeah,
tree?
like plant a tree, yes.
I don't know, it doesn't really come up.
I don't know if we have
I know.
tree planting in there.
Right, I mean, I know there's
I would
obviously-
just push them towards the recognition and memorial
Okay.
policy that is on the website.
Okay,
And that spells out what
Okay.
our policies are
Yeah.
and doing that kind of stuff on district property.
cool.
And trees are great.
Brian wanted a tree?
What's that?
Brian wanted a tree?
He did not, well, when there have been some community members that have approached me about like, hey, could we do something like that?
One big oak tree, and a valley oak takes up the whole.
I would just push them towards that policy.
Yeah.
It explains how the process works and what gets considered.
I
Right,
don't have
perfect.
questions, I just have one comment.
Okay.
I would really like to encourage you to look into replacing the handicap chair
Before it stops working.
Correct. That would just be my suggestion.
You know, I will admit, Kathleen, that one thing, I really do like that chair. The new ones are a little different, and so I'm like hoping it holds on, you know, but we can get a backup just to have one on hand, but
As
they
long
don't
as-
make them like they used to.
As long as the person or people who are using it are still able to.
Oh, no, it
This is
works.
not about your attachment.
It works
it's about
great.
a
No, it's
functioning
a
chair.
very good chair.
I'm just kidding.
It's a very good chair.
I just kind of disagree with waiting till it goes out, because you never know
Because you
versus.
lose time in the.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't want to have a situation where we didn't have ability to access the pool while we're scrambling to purchase them. So I agree with that. It makes sense.
As
to
long as you
have
can
something.
store it in a way that doesn't damage it and all that stuff, and we
Yeah.
can push install. I agree with Kathleen on that one.
Yeah,
Um,
that should be an issue.
They might hit their head.
I actually have two questions. One is the wading pool / top pool last year, and I had some cracks that we had fixed. How did that survive the storms and everything? And
Cracks to the
Concrete.
deck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we actually, I mean, that area had moved a lot from just the instability from the creek bank.
Yeah.
And we're hoping, I mean, things have not noticeably changed on the creek end of that. the concrete repair work we've done is very superficial. We haven't wanted to put a bunch of money into that area, not knowing if it's gonna continue to shift.
Yeah.
So, those cracks, you know, they lasted the season. We had all that redone
Okay.
again
Yeah.
earlier this season,
Uh-huh.
and it looks really good. I mean, it looks patchy. It looks like it's, you know, cracks have been filled and
Okay.
it's not all clean and uniform color or anything like that, but, I think the concrete is looking good for going into the season. It's safe, it's smooth. I think that'll be good for this season.
Okay.
And then there were some minor cracks in that pool shell, as well that, we've repaired over the years that we'll probably have to fill a couple of them, as well. But, that area is, I'll say it's not as pretty as it could be. It's in terms of all the different little patchy repairs and blotches, but it's safe, it's smooth and functional going into this season. So
Okay.
something definitely to evaluate going into what we're gonna do moving forward. But for now, this season, it's good.
And then I might be really behind the ball on this one, but when my girls were doing tennis court hopping earlier today, I noticed that there was that tree that fell right as you cross the bridge.
Yeah,
And I'm sure we've talked to people, I just wanted to confirm that.
we're aware.
My girls were like, oh, are we gonna remove that? I was like, no, we usually leave things after we talk to people if they say it's good for the creek.
It,
And I was like, I should probably talk to Luke about that.
So that tree fell onto the bridge. We actually
Right.
we had to cut
That's
it
right.
off, and we're gonna cut it down some more just so it's not an attractive nuisance for kids climbing up super high and being able to fall into the poison oak below that. But as far as fully removing it, yet to be determined whether we'll need to take it out completely or whether it's going to be a beneficial thing to have.
I just thought with the roots and the bank right there with kids, yeah.
Yeah, so well, now that the weather's drying out and we'll be able to, the creek gets lower, we'll be able to get in there and kind of assess a little more.
Okay.
So I haven't made a determination whether we're gonna fully remove it or just cut it back a little bit, but I'll keep you apprised.
Perfect. All right.
Sign up for the Chipper Day.
Yeah. Thank you, Luke, so much. Very, very detailed. And thanks Susan Press for coming back yet again and doing another art show. I definitely appreciate
Absolutely, I'll pass that along.
dedication.
Yeah, we very much appreciate her being willing to put her time into that.
Does anybody have any board member items of interest for future agenda items?
I think for me, just following up on that whole back tennis court, what the possibilities are.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's adding a chair to the pool. Just kidding.
An update on FEMA and of course I'm losing my words right now, but we have the naturalists going through and we're gonna do
the trail.
cultural for the trail. Any other updates that we need to know for that? And,
I think maybe just any updates on the median, like,
yeah, that was my
I
next
feel
one.
like the median is, once again, an item of interest.
I do, and I would say on that, in 2014, the district cut 40% of the park staff
Right,
Yeah,
and brought on to do a crew to do some basic kind of median maintenance.
yes, like some blow.
And this is just, I think especially now, after so many years have kind of passed and it's not being kept kind of the same way that the larger crew is kind of keeping up
Right,
on that. I mean,
right.
these are some of the consequences
Absolutely.
of decisions made in the past. I'm not saying these are the wrong decisions, but
Right,
when you have limited resources, you gotta prioritize
Yeah.
where they go. And cutting a big part of that park staff, that was one of the big areas that they stopped
yeah,
taken care of and then brought in and just kind of focused on that area. And this predates me, but the decisions made, but kind of focused on that stretch right in front of the park, and you can see a lot of the kind of medians and other work that they were doing that may or may not technically be our responsibility to do,
Right.
kind of have gone to the wayside.
yeah, no, and I don't, just to be clear, I don't think anybody is saying, why isn't Marinwood doing this? I think people know that that's not our land, and.
Some people.
Yeah, well, at least the people.
And some people know it's
that I
not our
talk
land and
to-
still want to know why we're not
Yes,
doing it.
the people that I talk to, if they don't know, I inform them very quickly about that. And I think there's like, I think a lot of it, to be honest, revolves around it being a safety issue, right? That there's things that are fire hazards in those medians, there's, hazards for, kids crossing the street, stuff like that.
And we had talked about possibly forming a non-CSD group to try to work on that.
Right.
And we agreed on that, and then we didn't move forward because we had other things show up on our plate, so possibly,
And that was kind of the thing that Ian Fine was bringing up, was like,
Yeah.
a kind of a community-oriented
yeah,
service day.
okay.
Right.
I
I
don't
just
think,
think it's county property, county should deal with
It
it.
brought
no,
it
but I
up,
don't
but
think I don't
it's-
think the CSD or the board should have anything to do with organizing a day like that.
Well, that's another
That
conversation
was-
for
that
another day,
was-
totally.
That was the conversation we were having, is
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a CSD thing, but that it would be, some of us who are on the board would like to participate in that too.
No,
I
it's a
think
matter of
it's just-
setting up, because
As
it's
a
on the
private-
median, you're gonna deal with traffic, and
Right.
that is a serious problem, so you're
Yes.
gonna have to get the sheriff. You're gonna have to do all kinds of things to
Yeah.
mitigate
Mhm.
safety,
Yeah.
so it's,
But I don't
It's a
think-
county issue.
it would be better to have work day for the pass-throughs.
Mhm.
That would be better.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we can,
Sure.
Anyway,
we
just,
can
But
continue.
if
Keep
we
it on
could
the
get
radar.
Mary Sackett maybe involved with the median problem, coordinating, getting the county off their ass and doing something about it.
we got it.
Let's,
Boom.
alright,
Yep.
alright,
Board member item of interest.
alright, if nobody has
I
any
have
other.
another
Oh,
item.
okay,
Just waiting patiently for my turn.
sorry.
I would like to just revisit the cell phone coverage
Yeah.
question that's been brought
Sounds
up.
like
It's
that's,
like my annual
right?
plug for this.
I think it's every 3 months.
No, I haven't brought this up for probably 9, actually, at this point.
Really? I feel like we talked about, oh, okay. I mean, it needs to be brought up.
So, that's mine.
Cool. That's a great one. Oh, come on, people, let's fix that.
Alright, any other items of interest? Sorry, Lisa, did I?
Nope.
No, alright, so I motion to adjourn.
Cool, let's get out of
Sweet.
here.
All right.
Our next
Thanks, everybody.
meeting is.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys.